Aaliyah Brooks had just started her new job as a cleaner at Carter Innovations 2 days ago. It wasn't glamorous, and it certainly wasn't easy, but after months of job hunting and rejection, she was thankful. This was her fresh start, and she wasn't about to let anything mess it up. That morning, Oak Ridge was swallowed in storm clouds. The rain came down in heavy sheets, soaking the sidewalks and making every step a slippery gamble. Aaliyah clutched her small, worn-out umbrella tightly as she rushed toward the downtown office building. She couldn't afford to be late, not when she had just begun. As she hurried past a bus stop, something made her pause. An old black woman stood alone in the downpour, her gray locks dripping wet, clothes clinging to her frail frame. She wore no coat, no shoes, just a faded dress and a head wrap that had long since lost its battle with the rain. Her arms were folded across her chest, shivering, her eyes blank with confusion. Aaliyah's heart sank. She glanced at the time, then back, at the woman. "Mama," she said gently, stepping closer and holding the umbrella over her. "You'll catch your death like this. Please take my umbrella." The old woman looked at her with tired, glassy eyes. "My daughter," she said softly. "I just got to this city from down south. I don't know anybody here. I don't even know where to go." Aaliyah bit her lip. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a few crumpled bills, the only cash she had for the day. "It ain't much, but maybe you can find a place to dry off." The woman shook her head. "I can't take what you need for yourself." Aaliyah hesitated. Then her face lit with quiet resolve. "All right then, come with me. I'm heading to work. You can stay there for a few hours until I get off. After my shift, I'll figure out how to get you somewhere safe." Tears welled in the old woman's eyes. "May the Lord bless your soul, child," she whispered. Without another word, Aaliyah gently took the woman's hand and guided her through the storm. Under the tiny umbrella, they moved as one. Two souls in the cold rain, one helping the other stand. By the time they reached Carter Innovations, Aaliyah's shoes were soaked and her clothes were clinging to her skin. But she didn't care. She found a small corner near the janitor's supply closet and gave the woman a towel, her spare hoodie, and a quiet space to rest. "Mama," she said softly, "don't worry. Just a few more hours. I'll be back on my break, and we'll figure it out from there." The old woman smiled, wrapping the hoodie around her shoulders. She didn't say much, just looked at Aaliyah with the kind of gratitude that didn't need words. And as Aaliyah picked up her mop and started her shift, the old woman watched her. This young woman had so little, yet had given so much, and in that quiet corner of a bustling office building, something life-changing had already begun. By the time Aaliyah's break rolled around, the sun had pushed its way through the clouds, and the streets of Oak Ridge were steaming from the morning rain. She hurried to a small corner store nearby, using the little money she had left to buy 2 meat patties and a bottle of ginger soda. It wasn't much, but it would do. Miss Loretta, she had learned the old woman's name, needed to eat. As she rushed back toward the office across town in Carter Innovations, the glass doors swung open with a loud thud. Vanessa Green, dressed in a tight emerald green jumpsuit and sky-high heels, strutted into the building. Her long weave swung behind her like a trophy, her sunglasses still on indoors. Vanessa loved surprises, especially when they involved reminding people that she was about to become the wife of the CEO, Malcolm Carter himself. She walked in like she owned the place. That's when she spotted Miss Loretta. The elderly woman was sitting quietly in the corner, hands folded in her lap, eyes downcast. She didn't look like she belonged in the polished chrome and glass world of Carter Innovations. Vanessa stopped in her tracks, her nose wrinkled. "What in the world is this?" she snapped loudly. Everyone in the office turned to look. Miss Loretta raised her head slowly. "I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I'll leave if I must." Vanessa scoffed, crossing her arms. "You're damn right you will. This ain't a homeless shelter. Who let this dirty old woman in here?" The entire office went silent. Some staff looked away in discomfort, but no one said a word. Miss Loretta's hands trembled slightly as she stood up. "You have a cruel heart, child," she said softly. I pray the man who plans to marry you sees your spirit before it's too late. Vanessa's face twisted in rage. You don't know a thing about me. You're just a pathetic beggar. Leave. Now. Miss Loretta turned without another word. Dignity held her upright, but her eyes shined with held-back tears. Moments later, Aaliyah returned, balancing a paper bag and soda bottle in one hand. Her steps froze. There at the gate, under the hot sun, stood Miss Loretta, head down, shoulders drooped. Mama, what happened? Aaliyah asked, rushing over. Miss Loretta gave a tired sigh. She came in, said she was the CEO's fiancé, told me I didn't belong here, called me names. I didn't argue. I just left. Aaliyah's heart thundered with, "Hey, who did this to you?" She said her name was Vanessa. Aaliyah's jaw tightened. Her fists curled. She marched into the building, her wet shoes slapping against the tile. Vanessa was still lounging on one of the chairs, filing her nails like nothing had happened. Aaliyah didn't wait. Vanessa raised an eyebrow, lazily. Oh, the cleaner returns. What now? Looking for a broom? Aaliyah's voice cut sharp through the air. How dare you throw my mother out like she's trash? Vanessa sat up straight. Your mother? That filthy woman, please, don't embarrass yourself. You don't know the first thing about dignity or respect, Aaliyah spat. If Malcolm's really marrying you, I pity him. Vanessa jumped to her feet. Watch your mouth. You'll lose this job. Aaliyah stepped closer. Then fire me. But let the record show. I'd rather be jobless than work in a place where women like you are treated with more respect than elders like her. The tension in the room crackled like electricity. Aaliyah turned and stormed out. She found Miss Loretta still waiting by the gate. You shouldn't have spoken up for me, child, Miss Loretta whispered. I had to, Aaliyah said, holding her hand. No one talks to you like that. Let's go home. As they walked away, heads high despite everything, Vanessa sat fuming behind the office glass, watching them walk into a future she could never understand. Back at Carter Innovations, Vanessa Green was seething. Her ego burned hotter than the noon sun outside. How dare a poor little cleaner speak to her like that? Vanessa pulled out her phone with trembling fingers and dialed Malcolm's number. The line rang once before his deep, calm voice answered. Hey baby, everything okay? Vanessa sniffled loudly, already crafting her performance. No, Malcolm, something awful just happened, she wailed, her voice shaky with fake emotion. That cleaner girl you hired, Aaliyah, she brought some street people into the office. They insulted me, Malcolm. One even tried to swing at me. I was terrified. Malcolm straightened in his office chair across town. Wait, what? Aaliyah? Did what? She said she doesn't care about her job and just stormed out like a thug. She disrespected me in front of the entire office. Malcolm exhaled slowly. All right, I'll handle it. Just go home, Vanessa. Vanessa smirked to herself as she hung up. Let's see how far your big mouth gets you now, cleaner girl. Back. In Aaliyah's modest one-room apartment, she and Miss Loretta sat quietly on the floor. The scent of warm patties filled the space, but Aaliyah wasn't eating. She stared at the wall, deep in thought. This place isn't much, she said, handing Miss Loretta a bottle of ginger soda. But you can stay here as long as you need. Miss Loretta smiled warmly. My child, a home isn't measured in square feet. It's measured in heart, and yours is big enough for two. Just then, Aaliyah's phone buzzed. The screen flashed an unknown number. She picked it up slowly. Hello? The voice on the other end was sharp, cold, male. This is Malcolm Carter, CEO of Carter Innovations. Aaliyah's breath hitched. She had never met Malcolm, only spoken to him once on the phone when she got hired. Good evening, sir, she said carefully. Malcolm didn't waste time. How dare you bring outsiders into my office and start a fight with my fiancé? Who gave you the right to cause drama 2 days into the job? Aaliyah blinked in disbelief. Sir, that's not what happened. I didn't bring anyone to start a fight. I helped an old woman. She had nowhere to go. And she wasn't causing any trouble. Your fiancé came in and... Are you saying Vanessa lied to me? He interrupted. Aaliyah took a shaky breath. I'm saying the truth matters. I didn't fight anyone. I stood up for someone who was mistreated. Malcolm's voice grew colder. You should have waited for me to handle it. You don't make decisions in my company. And what would you have done, sir? She said, her voice trembling but defiant. Let your fiancé throw an old woman out into the street? Silence. Then, Vanessa said she'll leave me if I don't fire you, and I'm not about to lose her over someone I barely know. The words hit Aaliyah like a slap. She swallowed the lump in her throat. Then I'm not surprised, sir. I expected this. You let your woman lead you like a child. What did you just say? Malcolm hissed. You heard me. Keep your job. I won't beg for scraps from someone who doesn't even know the value of truth. And with that, Aaliyah ended the call. She dropped the phone on her bed and leaned back, her chest rising and falling with anger and hurt. Miss Loretta looked at her with concern. My child, what's wrong? Aaliyah forced a smile. That was my boss. He fired me. Miss Loretta's face fell. Because of me? Aaliyah nodded. Yes, but I'd do it again. Tears welled in the old woman's eyes. You are too good to suffer like this. Aaliyah took her hand gently. I'd rather suffer for doing what's right than stay silent while wrong is done. In that small room, 2 generations sat hand in hand. And even though Aaliyah had just lost her job, she had gained something more powerful, a reason to keep her head held high. That night, Aaliyah lay on her thin mattress, eyes open, replaying the events of the day. She had lost her job, but she didn't regret standing up for Miss Loretta. Still, the weight of uncertainty pressed on her chest. Rent was due next week. Her phone bill was overdue. And now she had another mouth to feed. Across the room, Miss Loretta sat quietly, her wrinkled hands folded in her lap. The 2 women shared a quiet dinner, just bread and tea, but Miss Loretta's mind seemed far away. After the dishes were cleared, she let out a soft sigh. My daughter, she began slowly. I didn't come to Oak Ridge just to wander. I came looking for something. Aaliyah looked up, curious. What is it, Mama? Miss Loretta hesitated for a moment. I came to find a wife for my son. Aaliyah blinked. Your son? Yes, she said, smiling faintly. He's kind, hard-working, but stubborn. I fear he might never settle down unless I help him. Aaliyah laughed lightly. You sound like every other mother in the world. Miss Loretta leaned forward and gently took Aaliyah's hand. From the moment I met you, I knew you were different. You're not just kind, you're strong. That's the kind of woman I want for my son. Aaliyah's eyes widened. She nearly choked on her tea. Wait, me? Yes, my child, Miss Loretta said with a soft, hopeful smile. You gave without asking. You defended me without knowing who I was. You have the heart of a wife. Aaliyah sat back, stunned. Mama, you don't even know me that well. And I don't know your son. Miss Loretta chuckled. That's fair. I just want you to meet him, see for yourself. After a long pause, Aaliyah nodded slowly. All right, I'll meet him. But no promises, okay? Miss Loretta's face lit up. That's all I ask. Then, almost as if remembering something, important, Miss Loretta added, but before you meet him, there's something you should know. Aaliyah tilted her head. What is it? Miss Loretta looked down, her voice low. My son, he doesn't have much. No money. He lives simply and works hard. I don't want you to expect luxury. Aaliyah let out a small laugh. Mama, stop. Trying to sell him to me like a market stall. Let me meet him first. Miss Loretta burst out laughing. Fair enough, my daughter, fair enough. Just then Aaliyah's phone buzzed again. This time it was another unknown number. She frowned and answered. Hello? A deep, calm male voice responded. Good evening. Is this Aaliyah Brooks? Yes. Who's this? This is Malcolm. Carter? The CEO. Aaliyah sat up straight. Her heart skipped. Again? Yes, sir, she replied cautiously. But the voice on the line wasn't calm anymore. It was stern, sharp, even angry. How dare you bring strangers into my office and assault my fiancé with street people? Who do you think you are? Aaliyah's blood went cold. Sir, I didn't assault anyone, that's not true. But Malcolm kept going. You're barely 2 days into the job and you're already making trouble? That's unprofessional. Sir, Aaliyah said, her voice rising, I helped an old woman, that's it. She wasn't a stranger, she's a human being. Your fiancé insulted her and kicked her out like trash. Malcolm scoffed. So now Vanessa's lying? Aaliyah's voice trembled with anger. I'm telling you the truth. She was cruel to someone who needed help. There was silence. Then Malcolm said coldly, Vanessa says she'll leave me if I don't fire you. I can't lose her over a new hire I barely know. That was the final straw. Aaliyah took a deep breath and said, Then let her leave. A man who lets a woman control his heart isn't ready for leadership. What did you just say? He snapped. You heard me, sir. And I don't care if I get fired. I'd rather walk away with my integrity than stay in a place where kindness is punished. And with that, she ended the call. Miss Loretta, who had listened quietly, placed her hand gently on Aaliyah's arm. My daughter, I'm so sorry. I never meant to cause all this trouble for you. Aaliyah shook her head. You didn't cause anything, Mama. If standing up for you cost me a job, then it was never the right job. Miss Loretta's eyes misted. You have a good heart, Aaliyah. You will never lack. But Aaliyah wasn't so sure. Bills don't care about hearts. She just hoped she had made the right choice. Later that night, Aaliyah and Miss Loretta sat in silence. The small fan buzzed quietly in the corner of the room, moving warm air around as the city outside wound down into dusk. Aaliyah was deep in thought. Her job was gone, her bank balance was low, and her mind was heavy. Still, she had no regrets about standing up for Miss Loretta. But now, with this strange offer to meet her son, she wasn't sure what to expect next. Suddenly, Miss Loretta's phone rang. Aaliyah's attention snapped to the device. Until now, she hadn't even noticed the phone. The model was sleek, expensive, not something you'd expect a struggling elder from a rural area to carry. Miss Loretta answered quickly. Yes, baby. I'm all right, she said, her voice suddenly softer. No, don't worry about me. I'll come see you tomorrow. I just needed a little time. Are you feeling better now? There was a pause, and Aaliyah could hear a man's voice on the other end, deep, concerned, and clearly someone important to Miss Loretta. I'll be there, she said, her voice firm. Rest now. We'll talk tomorrow. As she ended the call and placed the phone gently on her lap, Aaliyah stared at her, trying not to look suspicious. Mama. That phone, she said carefully. It's nice. Really nice. Miss Loretta looked at her, then laughed softly. Ah, you noticed. Did you say your son bought it for you? She nodded. Yes, there's barely any electricity in my neighborhood, and I love this one TV show that comes on every evening. My son saved up just so I could watch it whenever I wanted. He said I deserved a little happiness. Aaliyah's eyes softened. He must really love you. He does, Miss Loretta replied, her eyes far away now. He's been through a lot. We both have. That's why I want to make sure he ends up with a woman who sees his soul, not his struggles. Aaliyah chuckled. You're still trying. To sell him, Mama? Miss Loretta grinned. I have to. My son is brilliant, hardworking, and if I may add, quite handsome. Aaliyah rolled her eyes playfully. Let me meet him first before you turn this into a marriage pitch. They both laughed, easing the tension in the air. But even through the jokes, Aaliyah couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't adding up. The phone, the way Miss Loretta carried herself, the way she spoke on that call. None of it fit the picture of a lost, helpless old woman from the countryside. Still, Aaliyah stayed quiet. She would meet this son of hers, and maybe then the full story would begin to unfold. The next morning, Miss Loretta woke up early. She wore a clean head wrap and a simple floral dress. Aaliyah helped her pack a small cloth bag, then walked her to the street corner where she flagged down a taxi. Call me when you get there, Mama, Aaliyah said, hugging her tightly. I will, Miss Loretta promised, kissing her cheek. Aaliyah watched as the taxi disappeared down the street, the early sun casting long shadows on the pavement. She stood there for a moment, feeling something stir in her chest, a strange mix of curiosity, concern, and anticipation. She didn't know where Miss Loretta was going, but something told her that wherever it wasn't what she had been told. Miss Loretta arrived at the mansion's gates just after noon. The cab ride had been long, and her bones ached from the journey, but her mind was clear. She stood outside the massive iron gates of the Carter estate, tall, intimidating, and clearly not the home of a man who was just getting by. She adjusted her head wrap and clutched her cloth bag tightly. Her simple village dress made her look entirely out of place against the backdrop of polished marble statues, tall hedges, and luxury cars parked just beyond the gate. The security guards eyed her suspiciously. One of them stepped forward, speaking into a walkie-talkie as he approached. Ma'am, you can't be loitering here. Who are you looking for? Miss Loretta stood tall despite her exhaustion. Tell Malcolm Carter his mother is here. The guard blinked. His mother? Before he could ask more questions, the walkie-talkie crackled. Then came a sharp voice on the other end. Let me handle it. Within moments, the gate buzzed open, and out stepped Vanessa Green, heels clicking angrily against the pavement, her fitted red dress gleaming in the sunlight. When she saw Miss Loretta standing there in village clothes, her lips curled into a sneer. Oh, not you again, Vanessa said, crossing her arms. What are you doing here, old woman? Miss Loretta's eyes narrowed, but her voice remained steady. I came to see my son. Step aside. Vanessa laughed, loud and mocking. Your son? Lady, you must be lost. Ain't no way someone like you gave birth to Malcolm Carter. Miss Loretta didn't move. You should be careful how you speak. Oh, please, Vanessa snapped, stepping closer. This ain't no village hut, Grandma. This is the real world. You can't just show up here hoping for handouts or claiming connections you don't have. She leaned in, her voice low and cruel. You must be crazy if you think anyone here would believe you belong. Miss Loretta's eyes hardened. The only thing crazy here is the man who ever believed you were fit to be a wife. That made Vanessa's face twist. Security, she barked, turning her head toward the guards. Get this insane woman off this property before she embarrasses herself further. But before they could act, Miss Loretta pulled out her phone and dialed. The moment Malcolm picked up, she didn't wait for greetings. Come home now, she said, her voice shaking but firm. I'm outside your gate, and I have never been so insulted in my life. On the other end, Malcolm stood in his office, frozen. Mama, what? Now, she repeated, and ended the call. Back at the gate, Vanessa was still ranting when the black luxury car screeched to a stop. The door flew open and Malcolm Carter stepped out in a crisp dress shirt and slacks, his face tight with worry. The moment he saw his mother, still dressed in her village clothes, still standing tall despite everything, his heart dropped. Mama, he said, rushing over. What are you doing outside? Why didn't you come in? Miss Loretta looked at him, then pointed toward Vanessa. Ask her. Malcolm turned, his expression darkening instantly. Vanessa blinked. Malcolm, baby, I didn't know. She looked like a crazy woman. You know how dangerous people can be. He raised his hand. Stop talking. But I said stop, Malcolm snapped. You threw my mother out of my house? You insulted her at my office? And then you lied about Aaliyah? Vanessa's face went pale. Malcolm took his mother's bag and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Let's go inside, Mama. Without another glance at Vanessa, he led his mother into the mansion. The tall iron gates closed behind them with a loud, final clang, and Vanessa was left outside, alone, silent, and suddenly irrelevant. Inside the lavish Carter mansion, the atmosphere shifted from cold marble to warm heartbeats as Malcolm guided Miss Loretta into the sitting room. He helped her settle into a plush chair and called a housemaid to bring her something warm to drink. but even the comfort of the grand estate couldn't wash away the sting in Miss Loretta's eyes. "Mama," Malcolm said softly, kneeling beside her. "Why didn't you just call me to pick you up?" Miss Loretta turned to him with eyes full of quiet fire. "Because I needed to know for myself." He frowned. "Know what?" She reached for his hand. "Malcolm, I went to your office dressed like a woman with nothing, because I wanted to see the woman you want to marry." Malcolm's breath caught. Miss Loretta continued, her voice calm but stern. "You spoke so highly of Vanessa, but when she saw me, she didn't even ask my name. She insulted me, humiliated me, and told me I wasn't welcome. Aaliyah, your cleaner, she was the only one who showed kindness. She gave me her umbrella, her food, and her space. She defended me when no one else would." Malcolm clenched his jaw, shame rising in his chest. "And when I was forced out like a stray dog," Miss Loretta added, "it was Aaliyah who picked me up, fed me, and made me feel human again." Malcolm sighed deeply, running a hand over his face. "Mama, I had no idea." Vanessa lied. She said Aaliyah brought a group of people to the office and attacked her. That's why I fired her. Miss Loretta narrowed her eyes. "Then you owe that girl more than just an apology." Malcolm nodded. "I do, and I will make it right." Miss Loretta sat back, her eyes softer now. "I tested her, Malcolm. I pretended to be poor, to see if she had compassion in her heart, and she passed. Not because she's perfect, but because she chose kindness when no one else did." Malcolm sat quietly, letting the weight of it all settle over him. Then his voice came low. "I need to know for myself, too." Miss Loretta tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I want to meet her," he said, standing. "But not as Malcolm Carter, CEO. I want to meet her as a regular man. Let her think I'm just a struggling guy with nothing. If she still respects me, still wants to be around me, then I'll know her love is real." Miss Loretta looked at her son with deep approval. "You truly are my boy. All right then. Let me give you her number." She reached into her handbag, pulled out her phone, and read it out. Malcolm saved it without hesitation. Then he stepped into his private study, sat down with a deep breath, and made the call. On the other end, Aaliyah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the unfamiliar number, her heart wary, and answered. And, "Hello?" a warm but modest voice replied. "Good evening. Is this Aaliyah Brooks?" "Yes, this is she. Who's calling?" "My name is Malcolm. My mother, Miss Loretta, gave me your number. She told me about your kindness, and I'd like to thank you in person." Aaliyah smiled softly. "She spoke a lot about you, too. Said you were hardworking." Malcolm chuckled lightly. "I try my best. She also told me you agreed to meet me." "I did," Aaliyah replied. "I figured if she believes in you so much, maybe I should at least hear you out." "That means a lot," Malcolm said sincerely. "Would tomorrow afternoon be okay?" "Sure," Aaliyah said. "Where?" "There's a quiet little park near the main market in Oak Ridge. Simple but peaceful. Would that work?" "Perfect," she replied. "Let's meet around 2 p.m. then," Malcolm said. "All right. See you then." As the call ended, Aaliyah smiled to herself, unaware that the man she was about to meet was the same CEO who had fired her. And across town, Malcolm leaned back in his chair, hoping with everything he had that Aaliyah's heart was as true as his mother believed. The next day, Malcolm Carter prepared for the most important meeting of his life, not as a CEO, but as a man seeking truth. He stood in front of his closet, bypassing his tailored suits and Italian leather shoes. Instead, he chose a faded pair of jeans, a plain gray t-shirt, and old sneakers with worn soles. He even switched out his latest smartphone for a cracked screen burner phone and left his Rolex behind. Everything had to match the story, that he was a struggling man, living simply, just trying to get by. By 1:40 p.m., Malcolm arrived at the small park near the Oak Ridge main market. It was a quiet spot, just a few benches under shady trees, with the distant hum of street vendors selling roasted peanuts and fresh-cut fruit. He found a seat under a wide-leaved tree and waited, nerves prickling his skin. Exactly at 2 p.m., Aaliyah appeared. She wore a modest mustard-yellow dress and simple sandals. Her natural hair was pulled back in a soft puff, and her expression was calm but observant. When she spotted him, she smiled gently and walked over. "You must be Malcolm," she said, sitting beside him. He returned her smile. "And you must be Aaliyah." They sat in a moment of silence, studying each other, not with judgment, but curiosity. Aaliyah broke the ice first, her voice tinged with mischief. "You know, you have the same name as my ex-boss, not a good look." Malcolm laughed lightly, hiding his guilt. "Really? What are the odds?" She rolled her eyes. "Yeah, the man was spineless. Fired me after 2 days because his fiancée couldn't handle the sight of his own mother, and he never even cared to find out the truth." Malcolm raised an eyebrow. "That sounds pretty awful." "Oh, it was," Aaliyah said, folding her arms. "But I'm not bitter. I just feel sorry for him. A man who lets someone else make decisions for him isn't a man at all." Malcolm tried not to smile too much. "You sound strong." "I had to be," she said. "Life hasn't been easy. I've been hustling since I was 17, trying to keep a roof over my head. That job meant everything to me, but I won't trade my values for a paycheck." Malcolm nodded slowly. "That's rare, you know. Most people wouldn't have stood up for a stranger the way you did." She shrugged. "Miss Loretta wasn't just a stranger. She was somebody's mama, somebody's elder. That means something where I come from." They sat for a while longer, talking about life, family, and dreams. Malcolm kept his story simple. He told her he did odd jobs and was trying to save up to one day open a small business. He didn't mention wealth, power, or anything that might give him away. Aaliyah listened, encouraged him, and never once judged him for what he didn't have. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden light over the trees. Malcolm looked at her, the wind brushing against her face, and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. "I really enjoyed this," he said honestly. "Me too," Aaliyah replied. "You're different, Malcolm, in a good way." He wanted to tell her everything then and there, but he held back. Not yet. Not until he was sure her love was for the man, not the money. As they parted ways, Aaliyah smiled. "Let me know if you want to talk again. I don't mind giving people chances as long as they're real." Malcolm nodded, his heart full. "Thank you, Aaliyah. I'll be in touch." She waved and walked away, her footsteps light and unburdened, and Malcolm sat back down on the bench, his eyes following her. He had met many women, but none like her. The morning after their meeting at the park, Aaliyah was tidying her tiny apartment, still thinking about Malcolm. Something about him stayed with her, not just his calm demeanor, but the way he truly listened without ego or agenda. It was rare, refreshing. Her phone buzzed. She checked the screen. An unfamiliar number again. "Hello?" She answered cautiously. Smooth voice responded. "Good morning, Aaliyah. This is Mr. Banks, the office manager from Carter Innovations." Her stomach flipped. "Yes, sir? I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Carter," he said. "He wanted me to inform you that he's reviewed the recent situation. He realized a serious mistake was made and would like to make things right." Aaliyah's brows furrowed. "Make things right?" "Yes. He's offering to reinstate you. Not only that, but he would like to promote you to the role of his personal assistant." Aaliyah sat down slowly. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to decide right now," Mr. Banks said quickly. "But he personally requested you. Said you showed integrity and he believes in second chances. If you're willing, he'd like you to start tomorrow." Aaliyah hesitated. Her pride told her to say no, but the bills, the empty pantry, and the hope she saw in her mother's eyes told her to reconsider. After a deep breath, she replied, "All right, I'll come in." "Excellent. We'll see you at 9 a.m. sharp." When The call ended. Aaliyah stared at her phone in disbelief. She was going back not as a cleaner but as the right hand of the CEO who once fired her. Immediately, she called Miss Loretta. "Mama," she said, trying to keep her excitement in check. "You won't believe it." Miss Loretta's voice warmed instantly. "What is it, my child?" "They called me back. Offered me a position as a personal assistant to the CEO. Miss Loretta clapped joyfully on the other end. "You see? The good you put into this world always comes back to you, my daughter. This is only the beginning." Aaliyah laughed softly. "Thank you, Mama. But when are you coming to visit? I miss you." "Soon, baby. Very soon," Miss Loretta replied with a knowing tone. Then she added with a chuckle, "And you better believe I told my son all about how lucky he is to meet a woman like you." Aaliyah groaned playfully. "Mama, not again." They both laughed. But, even through the laughter, Aaliyah's thoughts drifted to the quiet man she had met in the park. And the job she was returning to. She had no idea those two were one and the same. The next morning, Aaliyah stood in front of the Carter Innovations Tower, dressed in her best outfit, a crisp navy blouse, black slacks, and flat shoes. Her hair was neatly braided, and her heart thudded with a mix of anxiety and determination. No mop, no broom. This time, she walked through the glass doors, not as a cleaner, but as the personal assistant to the CEO. The receptionist greeted her with a respectful nod and directed her to the elevator. Aaliyah's palms were slightly damp as she pressed the button for the top floor. She took a deep breath. "No matter what happens today, keep it professional," she reminded herself. When she stepped into the CEO's office, the man sitting behind the desk looked up and smiled. Her breath caught in her throat. It was him. Malcolm. The same Malcolm she'd met at the park. The one who wore beat-up sneakers and talked about odd jobs and dreams. He stood now in a tailored navy suit, watch gleaming on his wrist, confidence radiating off him. Aaliyah froze in place. You're... Yes, Malcolm said, his smile calm but sincere. "I'm the CEO. I should have told you sooner. I just needed to be sure." She stared at him, stunned. Her heart felt like it had tripped. "I lied about being poor. I wanted to see who you were without the weight of titles or money," he said gently. Aaliyah didn't speak. Her brain raced. Everything was spinning. "I want to sincerely apologize," Malcolm continued. "For everything. Especially for letting someone like Vanessa influence me. You didn't deserve that. You showed me what strength and compassion look like." Aaliyah cleared her throat, regaining composure. "You had me fired." "I did," he admitted, his voice full of regret. "And I regretted it the moment I knew the truth. That's why I asked you to come back, and why I wanted to meet you. Honestly, even if it was in disguise." She studied him. "Is that why you asked me out yesterday? Was it all part of the test too?" Malcolm shook his head. "No, that part was real." Aaliyah took a breath, then nodded. "Okay, I'm here to work. Let's keep it professional." Malcolm smiled faintly. "Understood." But as she turned to leave his office and head to her new workspace, Malcolm called out, "By the way, you look beautiful today." Aaliyah paused, slowly turned. Her voice was firm. "Sir, if this is why I was hired back, I'll walk right out that door again." His smile dropped and he raised his hands in surrender. "No, that's not it. I promise. This is your space, your role, your respect. Nothing else." She gave a small nod, then left the office. But her heart, it wasn't quite as steady as her steps. Later that afternoon, Aaliyah sat at her new desk just outside the CEO's office. She tried to focus on the documents in front of her, but her mind kept drifting to Malcolm, his voice, his smile, the truth he had hidden. She wasn't sure if she should feel betrayed or flattered, maybe both. Just then her office phone rang. It was Malcolm. "Can you come in for a moment?" he asked, his tone strictly professional. She walked in, clipboard in hand. ready to discuss scheduling or reports. But instead, Malcolm stood and gestured toward the chair opposite his desk. "Take a seat. I wanted to talk to you about your new role." Aaliyah sat down cautiously. "As my personal assistant," he said, "you'll be entitled to certain benefits. Effective immediately, we're assigning you a company car. Also, you'll be moving into a fully furnished apartment just 10 minutes from here, rent-free." Her jaw dropped. "Wait, a car? An apartment?" He nodded. "It's standard for someone in your position. You'll also have access to a professional development stipend and a personal budget to handle company errands." Aaliyah blinked, overwhelmed. "This is generous." "You've earned it," Malcolm said sincerely. But then he hesitated. "Also, I wanted to say, I still admire you. As a woman, as a person. You're beautiful, Aaliyah, inside and out." Her smile faded. She sat up straighter. "Sir, please don't ruin this." Malcolm's face shifted. "I'm not trying to." "You're my boss now," she said firmly. "If this is about anything more than work, I'm done. I've worked too hard to get here to be someone's office. Romance." Malcolm raised both hands in surrender. "No lines crossed, I promise. This conversation is over." She gave him a long, skeptical look, then nodded slowly. "Good." She stood and walked out, head held high. But the knot in her stomach stayed. Moments later, she pulled out her phone and called the one person who always gave her clarity. "Hey, Malcolm," she said softly, this time calling the number of the man she had met at the park, the man she thought wasn't her boss. He answered instantly. "Hey, you, everything okay?" she sighed. "Honestly, I don't like my new boss." Malcolm tried not to laugh on his end. "Really? What happened?" "He's unpredictable. One minute he's professional, the next he's complimenting my looks and asking if we could spend time together. It just feels like he has a hidden agenda." Malcolm softened his voice. "Do you want to leave?" "I thought about it," she admitted. "But I need this job. Still, if it gets weird again, I'll walk." He nodded, grateful she couldn't see his conflicted expression. "Don't let anyone chase you out of what you've earned. If he tries anything, shut it down. But don't give up your blessing over someone's awkward approach." Aaliyah smiled for the first time all day. "You always know what to say." "I mean it," he replied. "Keep shining, baby. You're stronger than anything they throw at you." "Thanks," she said, her voice warmer now. "I'll call you tonight." "Looking forward to it." As she hung up, Malcolm leaned back in his office chair, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "She just called me to complain about me." He chuckled quietly. The irony wasn't lost on him, but the admiration in his eyes only deepened. A few weeks passed, and Aaliyah settled into her new role with professionalism and grace. She kept her focus sharp, her emotions in check, and never let Malcolm's occasional soft glances or compliments distract her. She was here to work. That was it. But Malcolm? He was falling deeper every day, still in disguise during off hours. He and Aaliyah continued talking and meeting, at parks, quiet cafes, and small food spots. She had no clue the man she laughed with on weekends was the same man she called Sir Monday through Friday. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. Aaliyah invited Malcolm, the struggling dreamer, to dinner, her treat. She wore her favorite blue dress, and they laughed over plantain and jollof rice at a modest restaurant. She shared stories from work, and he listened, pretending not to know the office politics firsthand. When the bill came, she reached for her purse, but the waiter smiled and said, "It's already been paid, ma'am." Aaliyah blinked. "Paid? By who?" The waiter only smiled. "By someone who believes you're priceless." She turned to Malcolm. "You did this?" He raised his hands with a grin. "Babe, I'm broke, remember?" But then his expression shifted. He placed his fork down and reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "Aaliyah," he said, his tone suddenly serious. "I have something to ask you." She tilted her head, amused. "What is it?" He took a breath. "Will you marry me?" The smile dropped from her face. "What?" I'm serious. I've never met anyone like you. Your strength, your honesty, your heart. You've shown me what real love looks like. No games, no status, just you. And that's all I want for the rest of my life. Tears welled up in her eyes. Her voice trembled. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Malcolm whispered. She laughed through her tears. Yes, yes. They embraced right there in the restaurant, and other diners clapped, completely unaware that the man proposing wasn't just any man, but a CEO in disguise. A weekend surprise. A few days later, Miss Loretta called Aaliyah with an invitation. My daughter, come visit me this weekend. I have something to show you. Aaliyah agreed. But when she arrived at the address Miss Loretta sent, she froze. The mansion towered in front of her, elegant and gleaming. She double-checked the message. This can't be right, she thought. Mama said her son was poor. The gates opened and a smiling guard waved her in. Inside the living room, Miss Loretta greeted her with open arms. Welcome home, my daughter. Mama. Aaliyah looked around in shock. What is all this? You said your son was struggling. Miss Loretta took her hands and gently sat her down. My child, there's something you need to know. Malcolm is not poor. He's the CEO of Carter Innovations. Aaliyah's mouth dropped open. Wait, what? He disguised himself, Miss Loretta said, to see if you would love the man, not the money. Just then, Malcolm entered the room, dressed casually, but without the pretense this time. All truths now lay on the table. I wanted to tell you earlier, he said, but I needed to be sure your heart was real. Aaliyah stood up, stunned. You lied to me. All this time you had money, power, and you let me believe you were broke? I did, he said, his voice soft. But I never lied about how I felt. Not once. She paced the room, her emotions colliding. Miss Loretta stepped forward, her voice calm. We never meant to hurt you. We just wanted to make sure your love was stronger than the illusion of wealth. After a long silence, Aaliyah looked at Malcolm, really looked at him. And then she smiled. I'm mad. But I still love you. He exhaled, relieved. Miss Loretta clapped joyfully. Then let the wedding planning begin. Months later, their wedding was a celebration of love, truth, and culture. Drums, laughter, vibrant colors, and dancing filled the air as Aaliyah walked down the aisle, no longer the cleaner, no longer overlooked, but now the bride of the man whose life she had unknowingly changed. And as they exchanged vows, Malcolm whispered, You were always the one. Aaliyah smiled. You just needed to see it. The real way. Dear viewers, what lesson did you learn from Aaliyah and Malcolm's journey? Comment below, give this story a thumbs up if it touched your heart, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful emotional stories that uplift and inspire. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed and stay real.